mean, there are people that won't admit this, but I think doubt's part of the journey. I mean, what's the saying? It's a feature, not a bug. It'll manifest itself in different forms, but I do think it's something every Christian faces at some point. And I know somebody's probably going to what about me on this, but point to Matthew 21:21. But I'd push back and just say you need to read the context. But honestly, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those momentary moments of doubt, not settled unbelief, but moments where we struggle and we're, in a sense, wrestling with God. I think those things can mature our faith. C.S. Lewis said something like, part of faith is the art of holding on to things your reason has once accepted in spite of your changing moods. And I think that's something we can all connect with. In fact, I was just swapping stories the other day with someone who we were swapping stories about growing up and dealing with doubt and similar backgrounds. And for me, even though I was saved as a teenager, I struggled with doubt about my salvation well into my early 20s. And looking back, I think a lot of that stemmed from an incomplete understanding of who God is and how salvation works. I was around a lot of preachers and different preachers, and so many of them I listened to seemed to spend as much time trying to convince the saved that they were lost as they did calling the lost to follow Jesus, if you know what I mean. And you might have heard sermons like that, the kind that leave you walking out of church feeling like you need to get re-saved because you could never live up to the standard you had just heard. And they would leave me with more questions than answers. I remember thinking, am I truly saved? Did I mean it enough? Have I done enough to prove God's, my faith is real? And it wasn't really until I started reading the Reformers and studying the doctrines of grace and some of those things that I began to understand what it meant that Christ had already accomplished everything for me. And it was then, in that moment, I came face to face with the reality of just how worthless my efforts were and how salvation was all God. And when I did that, I gained a better understanding of who God is. And that's when I feel like the weight of those doubts started to lift, when I realized that my security wasn't found in my performance, it was actually found in God's promises. When I learned I couldn't live up to that standard before, and I couldn't live up to that standard after salvation, but the key to that was I learned I wasn't supposed to. The entire point of Jesus coming to earth and living and dying was to do that for me. And honestly, I think that's what helped me with my doubt. So I guess for me, at least in this particular instance, doctrine is what helped me overcome the doubt. I wrap my mind around truth. I let my emotions follow. And I think that's what C.S. Lewis was referring to. But salvation, honestly, that's not the only area people struggle. I've talked to probably more people who have doubted God's goodness than have doubted their salvation. Some have doubted His presence. Some doubted His purpose in their life. They hit one of those hard moments and they ask, where is God in all this? And that's a legitimate question to ask. I think doubt in one form or another is something we all wrestle with at some point in our Christian walk. But the thing about doubt is it doesn't have to be the enemy of faith. In fact, I think if handled right, doubt could be a doorway to a deeper understanding of who God is. The real question, though, isn't whether you're going to experience doubt. It's what you do with it when it comes.